Hello, everybody. This is Essence of Medicine, and I'm Dr. Abbasi for Essence. Today, I have a very special guest. Dr. Shavin Shet is a practicing spine surgeon in India. Dr. Shet, please introduce yourself. What qualifies you to talk about staying healthy as a doctor?
Thank you so much. I'm Dr. Sharvin Sheth. I'm a consulting practicing spine surgeon in Ahmedabad, India, which is in the Ahmedabad is in the western part of the country.
Is that
And
the place
I
where we come from, right? Ahmedabad is where the hometown of Mahatma Gandhi. Is that correct?
close by, like it's the home state of Mahatma Gandhi.
Yeah,
Yeah, he
okay.
was a few hundred kilometers just away from this city. And yeah, I've been practicing spine surgery for the past about 5 years or so. And I've finished my fellowship in spine surgery, minimally invasive surgery, endoscopic spine surgery
Mhm.
about 2.5 years back. And what the things that we are going to be discussing today is because I got myself into the being healthy game or the fitness game about a decade ago, just before our residency training starts, because I had no idea about it, and I was a very like I would not say I don't want to put stereotypes, but I was not a healthy guy. As in, I was pretty skinny, not just bones. How like you have it is one of those metabolic things, like you eat, but there is no amount of exercise. We are just as it is, and then once we get into our residency training, especially in our part of the world, our we come across huge working hours, like very long working hours. There is lack of sleep. We hardly know when we'll get our next meal because of the severe workload that we have. And because we are so much into our work and we are preoccupied by that, our own health takes a step back, because we are just, those 3 years of residency fly by. And then once we are into the game, once we are starting our own practice, then there is a shift of priorities. Like our priorities at the time of residency is, just it is a very high demanding job. You're constantly after patients, you're getting x-rays, you're operating, you're doing your rounds and stuff.
So
We
you're
hardly
in
get time.
survival mode in a residency, I think all around the world,
Exactly.
especially in India and in the United States. I think in some countries like
Absolutely.
Europe and Scandinavia, they are more civilized about that. But I can imagine that in your part of the world and in our part of the world, it is a constant battle to stay just ahead of the game and very stressful, quite frankly.
Very stressful, exactly. And the thing is, we don't know how to cope up with that stress, because it's like when our body is in stress, it releases the cortisol, which takes care of all our needs. Like, we don't feel tired, we don't feel hungry and stuff, and there is a crash where you're just out of energy. There is a loss of focus as well. So, but as soon as that is done, your survival mode is done, and then once we start the private practice, then the game is different. We are constantly trying to run after patients, get outpatient stuff. So again, when we finally get time to take care of ourselves, and we just don't give enough. Like we'll see about it, especially in our country where medical health is like medical care is so easily accessible. Um, in the sense that if I want to get an MRI right now, I can just walk into a radiology center and there's like, I want this MRI, it's done. I
That
want to
is
see a
even better
physician,
than
it's
United
done.
States. That is even better.
Yeah.
United, you
So
have to get a
what happens,
yeah.
what happens is that we take medical care for granted, because it is so easily available to us that we sometimes we just don't care that if something happens, medical care is right there, a step away. So that is how. And then once I started getting into the fitness thing, like strength training. uh, Once you start, it's like any subject. Like when you start your neurosurgery program or an orthopedic surgery program, once we are into it, we start reading about it. We start learning about it, see how how it varies. There are so much to do, so many things that can be done, so many subspecialties in a particular field. So once you dive deeper, um, you get a better understanding of what it is. It is not just building muscles, or it's not just cardiorespiratory strength. It's the holistic care of your own. It's not just physical well-being. It takes care of the mental well-being as well.
May I ask you,
So
so you said your residency was how many years?
3 years.
Wow.
So we orthopedic surgery training is a postgraduate training is of 3 years. After which I had spine surgery training for about 3 years.
So total of 6 years?
Six, yeah, and then undergrads of 5 years as well.
Okay. Well, now in United States, obviously, orthopedic surgery is about at 5 years, and then 2 years of fellowship,
Yeah,
generally 1 to 2 years of fellowship. So it's very similar. Now,
yeah.
I remember when I was in my residency, we didn't have any rules regarding limiting working hours. Um, and right now in United States, there are supposed to be some rules that resident should work not more than 80 hours a week. I mean, a regular work hour of a person in the United States is 40 hours. So about 20 years ago, they brought a law that limit the working hours of the resident to 80 hours. And
Okay.
when they brought that law, we residents were saying, "What? Only 80 hours?" Because we used to work 120 hours a week, like being on call
Yeah,
all the time and so on.
exactly.
Yeah, how was your residency? I mean, how many hours would you work and so on? How often would you be on call and so on?
So so, where I did my postgraduate training, we had 3 units of orthopedic surgery. So we had to be on call for twice, 2 days a week, and there was always the third Sunday of the year where we used to be on call. So what happens is if I'm on call on Monday and my Sunday is there, then it's like 24, 48, and the next 12. So about 60 hours at a stretch we are at work in
Yeah,
just the first 3 days. So I would say, yeah, it's approximately the same. About 100, hours a week is the bare minimum. And that is, I have done from a private medical college. It is much worse if you do it from a government college in the sense the working hours are tremendously high because of the workload. Like where I did my senior residency training in orthopedic surgery, it is Asia's largest government hospital. And there it's a huge number. Like every day they operate about 14, 15 cases of orthopedic surgery. Their OPDs are about 100, patients they see
wow.
in their OPDRs. So it's a very high volume center where, the even when like even I had what probably 8, 9 postgraduate students under me. And even then they were completely sloshed with work because of the severe volume of work that we used to receive. So yes, there is an advantage of learning. Like you get a lot of experience in just the 3 years, but um, at the cost of tremendous working hours.
Yeah. Now we had this saying in my residency: don't stand up if you can sit. Don't sit if you can lay down. Don't be awake if you can sleep. And I remember days that um now we were used to work like 36 hours straight. That I
Yeah.
remember that I had those second naps, say a few seconds of falling asleep while I was walking. Have you had those experiences?
Uh, and like fortunately, I have not, but I have seen my colleagues just take those few seconds nap when they're scrubbed in the surgery and they're holding the limb interaction, and then
Yeah,
it
yeah.
just loses off interaction, and then like, oh yeah, I'm just there. So
No,
yes, I have definitely seen that happening.
how do you stay healthy in an environment like that? How is it
So
even
I
possible?
think I think what I felt was that so what we need is a certain amount of time that we need to take out for ourselves. Like no matter, like, I understand postgraduate training, I would probably exempt from this. But after that, what we do is we don't give it, importance to that. So just 30 minutes a day for ourselves is enough to take care of all of it. And it's a matter of 3 weeks is what I read. Like it takes just 3 weeks to form a habit, and once that is set, like your body itself asks for it. Like now, if like if you exercise in any form for about 3 months, then your body starts craving those endorphins and that dopamine hits straight up. So you yourselves will feel that the energy levels are down. You don't feel that uh energetic.
So make
to
it
do
part of
anything.
your daily habit. You're
Yeah,
telling
so it has to become a reflex. Like how you breathe, how you wake up, like how the circadian rhythm is. Like if you wake up at 6 a.m. 3 weeks straight, the 22nd day your eyes open up by themselves at 6 in the morning. You don't need an alarm for that. In a similar fashion, I think that is how we should just start incorporating that into our daily lives.
so. What did you do in your residency to keep yourself healthy?
Residency, so residency, we don't get dedicated hours. Like, I can't, it's very difficult to get a certain amount of time, like straight up take 45 minutes every day at a fixed time.
Mhm.
So I think the best way, what I found was just to, there are a lot of exercises that can be done with your body weight training, simple pull-ups, push-ups, crunches, very simple that take care of the muscle tone and they keep the endurance part of the body as well alive as well. So, and it hardly takes 15-20 minutes is what I felt. It's not like, you don't need to spend hours, or you don't need to be 45 minutes or 1 hour. You have to do something. Just
Yeah.
20 minutes of constant burst, and it takes care of everything.
Mhm. Now, what I did in the residency, I didn't wake up at 6 o'clock. I woke up at 4 o'clock. I had to be at work at 4:30. I had to pre-round, then round with the team at 6 o'clock, and wait until the evening round at 9 o'clock. And then after that, if I was on call, obviously I would stay until the next day, 9 o'clock, before I could go home. But if I wasn't on call, that I could go home to wake up at 4:30 again to be at work again to repeat the cycle. What I mean, there is no really time to go to gym or anything like that. You're lucky if you can get some sleep. But what I did, which takes just literally 2 minutes, anytime before I go to bed and after I wake up, I used to do like 20 push-ups, 10 pull-ups, and I had a roller, one of those rollers that you
Yeah,
abdominal. And if you don't have that,
yeah.
put
The
your
ab roller, yeah.
you put your foot against the bed and you do 10 push-ups and so on. So, and I made it to a routine. Like literally, if I wouldn't do that, as you just mentioned, I couldn't fall asleep. If I wouldn't do that, I couldn't fall asleep because it turned to a reflex for me. And it literally would take about 5 minutes every day. And I was just something missing if I wouldn't do that. Now, I'm just going to tell you that that was not a healthy lifestyle, what we had.
Yeah,
And we as well noticed that, like they brought those laws after some resident, because they were tired, they did mistakes that end up in patient's death, actually. That's why they brought those laws to limit residence hours. And unfortunately, though, um, this is some people continue that lifestyle even after the residency, even
absolutely.
after they have choice. Now, how long have you been an attending a consultant in India?
In since about 2.5 years.
Okay, so now let's say for somebody in your position, obviously staying healthy as a doctor is an important thing. The reason we talk about that, because doctors are not the healthiest people themselves. They commit their life to the life of others. But I can tell you stories about the old school surgeon. Like um, um, every cardiac surgeon that I met, they were chain smokers. Um, this is a true story, and today is not accepted anymore. But first time I was a medical student and I was scrubbing in with a neurosurgeon, and I went to the scrub room and to not change to scrubs, and I saw the surgeon, attending surgeon, very experienced, very good neurosurgeon, opening up the door of his locker, taking a bottle of gin, opening up the cap, turning the cap, filling the cap with a shot, and taking a shot of gin before he starts surgery. And I had no idea. I didn't know what's right and wrong. But he saw me seeing him. He said, Hamid, listen, one shot of gin before the surgery, keep your hand steady. And much later, I discovered most of neurosurgeons are alcoholics. As a matter of
Oh,
fact, no, yeah, that's true in Germany. I was in Germany. Most of their lifestyle is so stressful. Most of them are alcoholic.
yeah.
He did need that shot of gin to get steady because if you're alcoholic and you don't have your gin,
And
your hand will shiver.
the withdrawal symptoms set in.
So doctors, especially surgeons, we are guilty as charged of absolutely abuse our body and so on.
Yeah. So we
Now,
have already abused our bodies in residency, and right after that, also because of these habits, especially smoking and alcohol, we continue that abuse
yeah.
and does not go away.
So let's talk about, what if another young surgeon comes to you and say, I went through residency, I'm out of shape, I notice I'm different, I cannot do things and so on. Um, what would you advise to that surgeon or doctor?
So actually, I did have a couple of colleagues who did ask me about it once. They saw a few posts about me. Like sometimes I keep posting about this stuff on Instagram, and they did approach me and they did ask me in a conference, like, how to keep this up because they themselves felt that once because of their work and because of their not so healthy lifestyle they were slowly gradually putting on that weight which you don't notice in a week's or a month's time, but 6 months down the line they see that photo and like, oh, and then they climb up on the scale and it's just 15 kilos more than what they used to be.
You know how I
So
noticed that? Shavin, I noticed that the first 2 years of my residency, which is many, many years ago, I lived only in scrubs. I never came out of scrubs. After my
mm.
third year, when I tried to get into my irregular clothes, none of them would fit. That is how I noticed that I have put a lot of weight. Please
Yeah.
go ahead.
So, yeah. So what I suggest is, the first and foremost thing that I say is you have to be patient. There's no shortcut to this. Like, there is no magic drug or magic exercise that is going to get you back to shape in a week's time. And the numbers, the second most important thing I say is consistency. Like, you do it for 3 days and then you're like, yeah, it's all right, it doesn't matter. To hell with it. And then again, 10 days later, you want to start. It does not work that way because it's just it's a scientific fact that for your body to start losing weight or gaining muscle or anything, any change that happens in the body, it requires a jump start, like how an engine is. It does not just start right away. You have to do it for a few weeks just for your body to get that engine turning. And then once it starts, it is a very gradual process. So what I told both of them was like you do it for a month, be consistent for a month. And it is not just the exercise, because the second most important, like the third most important thing the mistake that we do is we exercise very well
Mhm.
and then we eat, there's gluttony, we eat like monsters. So that it's like, you can't fight, you can't pour water on one end and petrol on the other to curb a fire.
Is there a special diet you recommend in a situation like that?
I would say sugars are the worst. I do myself have a sweet tooth, but ever since I know how painful it is to go through those 50 minutes every day, I've put a complete stop on sugars. Like sugars are the worst thing that your body can have. It's a very slow poison.
Sugar
But
or carbohydrate as general?
I would say simple sugars like
Got it.
artificial sweeteners, ice
Got it.
creams, chocolates,
Even
stuff like that.
artificial sweeteners.
Yeah, like the ones that are in the aerated drinks and stuff, those kind of artificial sweeteners, not the sugar-free sweeteners which use stevia and kind of stuff.
I see, I see.
That is, yeah, so these are the worst. Like they straight up, they're quickly metabolized, and if they're not required, they straight up get deposited into fat. Instead, replace them with complex carbs or long-term carbs like sweet potato and stuff or brown rice
Got it.
because we cannot eliminate carbs from our diet. Our brain food is glucose. It does not work on protein.
Yeah,
So if there is if you don't have enough carbs in your diet, uh, the brain shuts down.
yeah.
You
As a
get
matter of fact,
hypoglycemia, you get irritable, you get, it's that mood is not there.
yeah, as a matter of fact, it goes even beyond that. If you don't have enough carbohydrate for your brain, your body will break down your muscle to create sugar for your brain. So
Mm,
it's important to
exactly.
supply it for your brain. Go ahead, please.
Absolutely. So that is one. And second is I always recommend high protein diet. I'm not saying high protein as in take 300 grams of protein, but at least the bare minimum that is required for the human body, which is about 1 to 1.5 grams per
I,
kg, which
I must
are
ask you a
as
question though.
yeah,
You're in Gujarat. Ahmedabad is in Gujarat.
yes,
And most of
Gujarat,
people
yeah.
in Gujarat are vegetarian.
Vegetarian, yes. Exactly what the point that you said I was coming to now, that especially in a place where vegetarians are a lot in number. They don't even consume eggs or, forget, I'm not even talking about meat.
Mhm.
So that is where the major problem lies because the only way then to get protein is called cheese or paneer and tofu. And
Mhm.
you cannot have that every day. Pulses and, some lentils, they do provide some amount of protein, but it is not enough. Like you need to consume a very large amount to reach your target, and that much amount leads to a lot of gastric problems.
Are you a
So then,
vegetarian?
no, I'm not.
Okay, okay. No, but what I
I like
noticed,
exploring food, so I'm a foodie. I cannot be a vegetarian. I like to
what
explore all cuisines wherever I go.
now, what I notice it is um, what you are talking about is actually become much easier if you consume meat. But if you're a vegetarian, it makes it much harder, especially in some areas. They are not even eat eggs or other, animal product and so on. That makes it really difficult to keep the diet that is, I mean, it's possible, obviously possible. I saw a lots of healthy people in Gujarat. They were all vegetarian. Or there is another thing that saw Jainism, right? Or Jainism.
Yeah, Jainism,
but,
yes. So
but
they don't even eat any roots. They don't eat roots, potato, onion, garlic, anything that goes under the ground. They're not supposed to consume that.
and they are still healthy because I think over thousands of years they have figured out what combination of other food will give them what they need for a healthy lifestyle. But for somebody who has never been in that, it's going to be more difficult. If somebody who started
Yeah, it is.
doesn't come with that whole history that carries them, it's becoming very difficult. So routine exercises, healthy diet, protein rich, low sugar or zero sugar. I'm not talking about carbohydrate, but low simple sugar diet. I think you sort of the whole medical and nutritional science is agreeing with you all the way with you on that. But we talk about exercises. Not every exercise is the same. Tell me about what do you do yourself?
Right. So, as I said, it is not about building muscle. Like I'm not going to talking about, I'm not into competitive bodybuilding. Like, I'm not into powerlifting and stuff. So what we need is what I do is I do strength training about 4 days a week in various forms of compound exercises because they involve more than one muscle groups and then helps me reduce my time. And the other 2 days, I do a lot of high intensity intervals and endurance training. So
Okay.
that takes care of the cardiorespiratory reserves as well.
Okay. Tell me about that because our knowledge is really consolidating regarding this short, high intensity exercises that we figured out there's something special about that. What can you tell people about that high
Right.
intensity?
So what happens? So basically, the concept of high intensity training is you do exercises which are pretty intense and they straight up shoot up your heart rate to zone 3 or zone 4, which is about 80% of your maximum heart rate. So if we see the average heart rate, the zone 3 or zone 4 would be more than 130 beats a minute,
Mhm.
140 beats a minute, and that is your fat burn zone. Zone 3 and above is the time where the fat starts burning. Before that, it just trains your lungs, it trains your heart, but the fat burn is low. And there is a lot of aerobic, anaerobic stuff going on. So as soon as the heart rate reaches a zone 3 and zone 4, it starts burning fat. So
Yeah.
that is what the high intensity interval does. I would give an example of burpees. Like if you do just 10 burpees in those 15 seconds, your heart rate shoots up to about 140. And then to
So
keep it,
how long are those high intensity? Because for a long time, people thought you have to do half an hour or something like that, high
uh,
intensity. What do you think? What do you say?
right. So, high intensity is you do short bursts. So there is you can there, if you even Google it, there are so many online videos and stuff where you can curate your own sets of say 7 or 8 exercises, a combination of them which keep your heart rate sustained.
Mhm.
So, for example, if I give you, you can do say 10 burpees. You do 10, you take burpees, squats, push-ups, do a few crunches, some form of stretches, and so that is one set. You do that about 5, 6 exercises. Take a break for exactly a minute or half a minute. Let your heart rate just come down a little bit, and then you start again.
So the minutes, we are talking about high
Mhm.
intensity minutes, interval, and then repeating it few cycles.
Yeah, a few cycles of it exactly. And if you do like say 5 or 7 sets of these, you won't know, but you've already spent about half an hour into it.
But and that is very contrary to our old knowledge that was saying that you go for a half an hour run, that you keep your heart rate high at the high level for a long time. When we found out what you just described is not only healthier, more efficient to burn fat, but as well, overall results are much, much better.
Much better, absolutely. So that is one. But again, as you said, that it was a pretty old thinking that you need to keep your heart rate above or at a very high level for a very long time. What recently people have found out is you don't need to run, you don't need to sprint.
Yeah.
Instead, what people have started is start
Mhm.
get on a treadmill, incline it at a slow speed, say 5 or 6, and then keep do it for the 30, 40 minutes. It eventually ends up giving the same result, which is also absolutely true.
Mhm.
So I would say high intensity training is takes care of is mainly it increases your endurance a lot, especially for surgeons. I recommend that is because we have long standing hours, especially in a few surgeries. If there is a deformity surgery, we are standing for 7, 8, 10 hours. Then as if our stamina goes down, then it is our concentration also, there is a lapse of concentration because our muscles are tired, that we get our focus is shifted away. So that is where this plays an important role.
So practically, but what you described, maybe not 7, 8 cycle, but at least you can do 3 cycle even in the
Three
long.
cycles, yeah, yeah, no. So 7, 8 is at an expert level. I would say if somebody who has been doing it for a year, then it is right. But if you want to start, I would say three, because three is the bare minimum that your body needs to get used to. And then
And
once you are there, you can start say 3 to 4, 4 to 5. There's a gradual progressive overload is what we call it.
and you can do it in 5 to 7 minutes in the physician
Yeah,
lounge, in the scrub room, or in the hallway, wherever you want to do. But that is,
absolutely. Anywhere.
yeah.
That is the
Now,
beauty of it.
yeah. And but did you ever wonder? I mean, I think I have an answer for that, but did you ever wonder why is that better than keeping your heart rate above 100 or 120 for half an hour? Why do you think why our body react better to that way?
Be-
And
Body react better to the slow incline walk that
no,
you
well,
said, right?
yeah, my question is why is it better for our overall health, for especially for our heart? Why is it better to have this 1 minute high intensity, then slow down, then again high intensity, then slow down, rather than go for a sprint, like you for 15 minutes you go full 140 heart rate and so on. Why is it this short intensity better than that long intensity?
In the Yeah, what I felt and what I've even read about it is that the short intensity bursts, they increase your cardiac reserve. So, it just keeps pumping, and then when it rests, it allows the cardiac muscle to dilate and it increases the
Perfect.
cardiac reserve for a
Perfect.
in the longer duration.
Exactly. We know that heart get perfused during the diastolic episode.
That's exactly.
So if you go for a run that for half an hour your heart rate is very high, then you have shorter diastolic episodes, and then the backflow, literally the nutrition has less chance to get to your heart itself. So you may actually causing more heart damage. Whereas when you do this short episode and you give it the interval, then the heart literally regenerates they get with nutrition and sugars and energy and oxygen. And yes, absolutely correct.
So I think that is exactly what you said. This is one of the reasons that so many people, especially post-COVID, when people started getting into this and people started running marathons or, without prior knowledge or without looking into this, they just started, sprinting and long-term, straight up marathons of 40 kilometers and stuff. And there were so many incidents of young people between the age group of say 18 to 30 that suffered from myocardial infarctions or some kind of angina. So
Yeah.
this is one of the reasons that happened. And then the funny part is that people started blaming the exercise. He went to the gym and he suffered a heart
Yeah.
problem.
Yeah.
So then that is this is one of the major
Hmm.
things that people need to know, not just doctors, but even the laymen that we are
Yeah.
around, that it is not the gym or the exercise that causes the problem, but it is the lack of proper method of doing it that leads to all the troubles.
And the beautiful part of it is that just all explained by anatomy. You know,
Yeah.
most of people may not know that the arteries, the coronaries, the blood vessels
Hmm.
that give blood to the heart itself, they're just next to the valves, the valves of
Wow. Yeah.
like a aortic valve. Aortic valve, what
Hmm.
it is, it has three leaflet, and
Yep.
behind two of them, there are two arteries. Literally, when the blood is pumping out, it covers that coronaries.
Hmm.
When
Yep.
the valves fall back, then the blood flows back to the heart, and that all of that makes sense because while the heart itself is pumping, the pressure inside of the heart is too high to
Too
get
high.
any blood anyway. So, but once it's done pumping and the valves come together to not allow the blood to go back to the heart, the backflow pressure, the diastolic pressure, goes around the valve, goes to the coronary, and give.
Yep.
And so anatomy explained to that, and that as well has as well this short intensity has as well an evolutionary reason like 1,000, 10,000, 40,000 years ago, the life was easy until the lion wanted to eat you. Now, within the next minute or two, it would be decided if the lion going to eat you or you would go away. You never
Yeah.
would be able to run 15 minutes away from the lion.
Yeah.
So,
True.
so your body is really tuned to this short interval, high intensity, and then relaxation. Now,
Absolutely.
in that sense, my daughter goes for marathon all the time. What do you think about those, like long-term marathon kind of exercises and so on? What do you think about that?
Uh, I myself have not been into those long runs or stuff, but I don't think I'm not against the idea of these marathons and triathlons that there are. The thing is, it requires dedicated training. You have to have that mindset that if I want to do this, I have to do it in a certain proper way. So I'll give an example. Our anesthetist, who has been our anesthetist for the past so many years, he just finished the Ironman triathlon about 6 months back, and he gave 8 months dedicated for this preparation. It was not like he just woke up one fine day and he's like, okay, now I'm going to do a triathlon and let's do it. he got a lot. He got his body composition analysis done. He met a nutritionist. He sorted out his diets. He used to take, 6 meals a day, 3 hours at
It's
3 hours gaps.
science. It is a
Yeah. So
science to do that.
it is a science. You have to be it is not just getting up and running 42 kilometers or say, cycling for 180. It requires a lot of training. So he used to, and it was also a gradual process. Like he did not start doing it from day one. So he set targets. My 15-day target is this, my 3-month target is this, my 6-month target is this, then the final race day comes. So it is very like it is I envy the people who are able to do marathons because they have great cardiorespiratory strength, like they have great endurance. But it requires a lot of patience and a lot of training to do so. And it's very good that people are able to finish the same.
No, I can give you just statistic. We know from high level athletics, like Olympic level or high level athletic, at any age, their joints and their spine is 15 years older than they are. This is just,
Yeah,
and, uh,
yeah,
and I think those high intensity, high impact, high peak energy transfer overall in the long run, our bodies, you see, they have done those studies that say our body is the best, efficient, the marvelous machine for walking, human body.
yeah,
But human body is not made for running, except short
yeah.
intervals. Do you know how you can
Yes.
prove that? Every cat, it beats the Olympic records in a heartbeat. A
Mm,
cat, a regular cat.
yeah,
So because their body is made for that. So
true.
if a random cat is twice as fast as an Olympic sprinter, that means the evolution didn't want us to really be good at that, right?
Mm,
Like
right.
cat can jump like um, 10 times of their length. That means
Mm,
you should be jumped from a street to the third floor if that would relate to us. But we can't because
we
our
can.
body is not really made for that. But what our body is absolutely made for, and we are better than any other animal. Walking, what that means that, how much energy do we spend for any random distance? We are more efficient than any other animal. So one of the things that I think is important for everybody is um, just walking. Many of us in uh, today's environment, doctors and not doctors, we have a sedentary lifestyle. We stand in one place, we do surgery, then we go and sit down, do 2 hours chart work, and then we go home, turn on the TV, and watch 4 more hours, and so on and so forth. Walking is the most important, doctor or not doctor. As a matter of fact, as a spine surgeon, that is one of our duty to make our patient ambulatory. What do you
Right.
think?
Absolutely. Very well. So I was exactly going to come to that next, that we advise our patients to do a lot of stuff that we ourselves are not doing. And to begin with is the posture, the sedentary lifestyle, the walking, and not loading our cervical spines with phones.
Yeah.
And that is exactly what we end up doing in our free time. Like as soon as we are free, the phone comes up, there's some social media stuff opens up. And I think that is how it is, not just for spine surgeons or any, but it is for everybody, doctor or non-doctor. The prevalence of social media and so many social media platforms has made us addicted to this tiny box.
Yep.
And the moment we get a second free, we just open something, be it a WhatsApp, even
Mhm.
text messages is a form of social media. So that is what we end up doing. And I completely agree with the point that lack of walking is one of the major things. Like even if we are doing surgery for so many hours, I would still call it sedentary because we are at one place.
Yes, yes, I
We are
agree.
not burning anything. We are not moving. The maximum we'd be moving is, stepping out of the
Yes.
OR while the O-arm takes its spin and then those 5 steps back.
And that is important because when you walk, your muscle are working, pumping the blood through your system and so on.
Exactly. So if I see, if on a full working day from say 8 in the morning to 8 in the night, I hardly reach 5,000 steps, hardly.
Yeah, yeah.
And so at the end of the day, you're like, oh, it's just 3,000 steps, and it is impossible. Like even if in between patients you're getting up, you're taking a few rounds, it is very difficult for us to even reach say 7,000 steps.
Yep.
And
Sharvin, I want to ask you a question. And that question, probably if you're in sport, you probably know the answers. These long time runners, like a marathon or 15 kilometer and so on, there is a group of people on this planet. They are high level. They are always on top. Do you know what I'm talking about? What country, what location in the earth, there are people that they are so good at this. That place is Tanzania.
oh,
Yes, if you go look
yeah.
at the records and so on, not I'm not talking about the sprint and so on, but they're good at that too. But this long time runner and so on, people from Tanzania are extremely good at it. And there are books written about it, why they are good at it. The birthplace, based on all information we have, Tanzania is the birthplace of humanity. Like
Oh.
that is where we all come from. Okay. Now,
Hmm.
um, there is another thing that I think is related. Um, have you ever walked in a park in where you are or where you go to Europe?
Yeah, yeah, I have. Yeah, of
What
course.
what makes a park a park? Tell me. What is if close your eyes and imagine a park? What makes a park a park?
Uh, From the best of my memories, I've seen a park as a very peaceful, serene place where people are just walking, they're doing something, they're
Open space.
relaxing, they're doing open space. Open
Open
space,
green
very
space.
relaxing and peaceful is the vibe that is there.
This is the studies about that as well. Open green space, some trees, but not too many. So you still
Mm,
can see wide. Water, preferably running
yeah,
water. And if you don't
running
have
water.
running water, you have these fountains that they makes the water running. So,
Mm.
and you have described now Tanzania, where the humanity started, where you have this green pasture, lots of animals. Animals is very good for the park, like if you have birds and so on. So
Mm.
you're in a place, it's green, there is water, there is source of food, there are animals, and if a predator comes from far, you can see it. That is in our psyche. This is in our
Yeah,
psyche that this is idea of the park. And across the world, if you go to parks, you have these elements because our genetic is engraved to relax in a situation like that. That there's a tree, you can hide on it, you can go on the tree and escape predators. If predator come, you can look for and so on. But then in this environment, we are the best walkers. We can walk
yeah.
deer or a antelope. We can walk them to death. We walk. We sweat. Human can sweat better than any other animal. No animals can sweat and get rid of the
That's
heat
right.
as efficiently as human. Okay, and
Yep.
so there is a way actually still the people in Tanzania do that when they want to catch an antelope, they walk against the antelope. Antelopes run, they walk. The antelope run, they walk. Eventually, they can get rid of the heat, but the antelope cannot and dies of a heat exhaustion. And that's how they hunt the antelope. Not because they are faster and so on. So the whole humanity has come to be really good at that. And that's the reason they have still have kept that genetic of they're
Yeah.
efficient in walking and running. That is why people from Tanzania, often Kenya, Tanzania, they are very close. That is why they always win this on Olympic and so on. They are so
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, of course, genetics definitely plays a major role in all of this because if it's not just the phenotype, but if genetically they're programmed in such a way that just what takes a lifetime for the genetics of say the Asian countries, it's just, it's very easy for them
Yeah. Now,
to achieve.
you were talking about something about bringing a routine to your exercises. I think that is totally nails it. We have a concept, we call that life gym. We
Yeah,
didn't really invented it, but we try to enforce it better than, like, one of the thing is, the doctor's room in my office is the farthest away from the patient's room. And between seeing the patient, I always walk back and forth. So you remember talking about walking and so on.
walking, yeah.
So we could have put the doctor's room just next to the patient room. But what we do, we put them farthest away. So during the day when they see the patient, they get that walk that they need without even
Yeah,
noticing that. Or you maybe don't see that in India, but I see it often that people sit in their car, drive half an hour to a gym, exercise for half an hour, and drive half an hour back.
yeah,
Well, why not just walk or to bike to a gym that is 15 minutes away, or just go when you do grocery walk buying, instead of taking the car, walk or bike there. So involve your daily activity, and that's the concept of so-called life gym, that
true.
that
Yeah,
you
I completely agree with the part that, all our daily, all our, like it the all our daily activities itself should be a part of that, of our daily routine that takes care of the exercise part. But as you said, the parity for the disparity of quality of gyms in our country is the reason for this. I'll give an example. Just last year, I was in the States, and I visited quite a few cities, right from LA, Napa, San Francisco, New York, Cancun, Utah, and all of these places that I had checked out the gym. The one thing I noticed in the US was all the gyms are extremely good. They have maintained, I think, and not just the states. It's anywhere outside of. So, if the Europe is there, so any European country you go to, the states, they have maintained all the gyms in a very good manner. Like, it's not just a small gym. A gym is a major gym with a lot of equipments. It's state of the art. It's not like it's a small town, so the gym is not good. So that is the major reason that we need to find a place where, number one, the equipment is good. The equipment should not be of a type that it gives a lot of it. If the equipment is not right, it leads us to injuries. That is the one thing. And the second is the trainers that are there. Not all of them are knowledgeable. There's a lot of ego lifting, and they keep pushing without knowledge. All the bad forms, bad postures.
what are your
So
what are your favorite equipment in a gym? If somebody start that, what do you recommend?
I would recommend machines. Like, the aim of the gym should not be lifting heavy or lifting free weights. Machines are equally effective, if not more, because it keeps your body balanced. You don't have to worry about that. They are safer because, again, the balance goes. You don't have to worry about the balance or getting off balance. And again, don't try to lift more than you can right now, just for your social media, or just to show your friends.
Yeah, right.
Uh, and I think all machines are great. Like, if my favorite machine would be the leg press, because that is how I start my week.
Okay. Okay. So this machine that in a controlled fashion give you resistance to your muscle, to that volumetric muscle activity.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's a myth that you cannot lift heavy in machines. Like,
Yeah.
you can easily lift 150, 200 pounds in machines itself. So, it's the free weight part is just glamour. But if you if you want to focus, then I think machines are very good at being consistent and being safe.
What about the cardiovascular machine? What is your favorite? The stepper, the treadmill, rowing machine? What is your favorite?
Rowing. My favorite would be the treadmill because it's walking is one thing that it's it keeps your mind running as well. Like while you walk, you can. What I do is while I walk, I plan the day. Like while I'm walking, there is nothing else to see. I don't watch anything in the morning, so I'll be planning my day in the sense what I need to do, what patients I have to see, what surgeries are lined up, so that surgery keeps it plays once in my head what is to be done. So
Mhm.
walking is the best way to keep your mind running. And again, this is a very scientific fact. Like walking keeps your mind active.
Perfect, perfect. Now,
Second is the rowing. I would go for
rowing.
rowing. I am not a huge fan of the stepper because of it is dangerous for your knees sometimes.
Yeah. Now, last trivia before we call it a day. If you don't have any access to those machines and so on, obviously you can use your body for like push up
Yeah,
and so on. But as well you can go for walking and running on the street and so on. Walking on sand, grass, asphalt, and so on. If you have all the choices, what do you prefer and why?
if I would definitely prefer grass. Yeah,
Okay.
grass and
Why?
barefoot is this. I would. It is the best combination because that feels great. It relaxes your body overall. Again, as you said, parks.
Yes, yes, yes. But as well, they have done those studies. You see, when you hit that, there is a peak energy level. Like for a
Yeah,
millisecond, you put like 5 times your weight on your joint.
yeah.
You are on asphalt, all of that energy get transferred very fast. If you're in the sand, that's very soft, but then
Mm.
the sand, lots of your energy get dissipated. It becomes really difficult to keep on. But the grass has the best actually conversion that you don't have that peak that damage the joint, but then you still have enough that that is why we are good at. You don't lose the energy of walking when you're running if you do it right. You just carry the energy of the last step to the next step. And
Next
grass
step.
gives you not that those peaks that damage your spine, damage your joint, but you still can keep that energy going. It become and on top of that, that relaxation that you get, especially if it's a safe environment and so on. And if you, some people,
Yeah.
not big in United States, they walk bare feet, but with their feet on the grass. And there are lots of studies that the huge benefit of actual relaxation that you get walking on the grass. So I totally agree with you on that. Now, but that they have done as well those studies. If you have no choice, you're in the inner city and you have to walk or run on the street, buy the most expensive running shoes that you can afford because those peak energy level literally will wear down not only on your spine but as well on all your joint and those highly engineered shoes, they literally simulate you walking on the grass even if you are on asphalt.
No, absolutely. So I strongly believe with the last point that, especially when it comes to taking care of the body, especially when it comes to all these supplements or the gear that we use, it has to be of a good quality, and money should not be a question of choice here. Because the good ones, they are very good, soft, shock absorbing protective soles that
Mhm.
take care of the shocks that you've mentioned, and it's just ergonomically better, is what I feel.
Well, Shavin, it's always a pleasure talking to you, and I closely follow your social media posts, which are extremely educational. So, for people who don't know, just go look for Dr. Shavin Shet on LinkedIn. And are you on any other social media that you put your posts?
I'm on Instagram as well, yeah. So I usually put on LinkedIn. So educational posts are on LinkedIn as well as Instagram.
Excellent. And I'll invite everybody go and look up if you're a spine surgeon, especially, but as well for general information. It's Shavin is always a good source of good information. Well, we come to the end of our podcast. I want to thank Dr. Shet for his time with us. So, and I'm hoping that I can see you next week in Mumbai.
Yeah, yeah. We'll be meeting next week in the SMIS in Bombay.
Excellent. Well, thank you
Yeah.
very much for joining us.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye
Have a
bye.
great day. Bye bye.